Hi, I'm Miles Hawkeye Kilometers. And I've been thinking a lot about Five Nights at Freddy's ever since the movie came out, specifically pertaining to how the animatronics themselves are depicted. The movie uses the same designs as the first game, whose characters are generally regarded as some of the best in the series, but in the movie they feel different. To be specific, worse. But this isn't a new argument, not at all. These arguments have been around for years, at least as far as the beginning of the AAA era. At least that's when I started to notice what was going on. I had never really thought about it until then, but the design philosophy in the series can pretty easily be grouped into two separate eras, modern and classic. And recently, I feel it's become a bit of a controversy in the FNaF fandom about which era has better character designs. Today, I just want to take a dive into the design principles of each era of the series, figure out when it was done best, and decide once and for all whether or not the FNaF designs have truly gotten lazy. What makes a good Five Nights at Freddy's character? Let's find out.
Miles of Kilometers.
Part 1. Danger.
A lot of the fan-favorite character designs have the element of danger, and this has been a common theme in design since FNaF 1. The most obvious example is Foxy. His huge mouth with sharp teeth, exposed metal parts, and hook add an aspect to the design that kind of give a different sort of fear than the others, but we'll get to that a little later. What I think Foxy does best is a sort of realistic horror. What I've always found scary about animatronics is that their shells conceal a giant mess of mechanical parts. It's a giant robot, it's impossible to stop it, and it's constantly running through a predetermined loop. If you got too close, you could get a hand caught in its gears or something, and you just have to sit there and take it as it continues to perform as normal. In Foxy's case, you'd also be getting slashed by its hook or having your frontal lobe bitten out. Foxy takes that idea and combines it with the fear of old abandoned animatronics, aka the fear of tetanus. Withered Foxy is great for the same reasons, but he's sharper and more angular, there's more parts to his endoskeleton, and his footsteps are loud. I don't particularly like his jump scare, but you have to admit, having a robot larger than the average human mother launching at your head at a high speed is pretty scary. I'm not a huge fan of FNaF 4's designs, but you have to admit that the way it utilizes this specific sort of fear is really good. All the animatronics have really freaky endoskeletons with sharp moving parts everywhere, and they're so much larger than you that they literally pick you up off the ground during their jump scares. Nightmare Fredbear is probably the best one of this because of his stomach mouth, which is a pretty good visualization of this fear, and a pretty bad visual metaphor for the bite of 83. Or maybe Elizabeth getting got by Circus Baby? Not sure. Speaking of sister location, they're all pretty good for this type of fear, and just in general being actually dangerous. Their faces launch open during their jump scare right into your face, revealing their weirdly human muscular system-looking endoskeletons. Not only that, but because in canon they're literally child kidnapping murdering machines, they all have, like, weapons. Ennard is probably the best one in this game for being dangerous, though. Sharp teeth, sharp wires, I don't know, he just looks sharp. At this point, the series has taken a bit of a pivot in the danger market from the fear of what's inside of them to the fear of the giant fucking crab claw. Scrap Baby has a giant crab claw, and even though it abandons everything that the previous design stood for, I still really like it, and I wish it was utilized better in the game. Scrap Trap also has a weapon. Kind of. Also, one of the lawsuits in this game literally describes one of the animatronics performing the bite of 87. Performing might be a strong word. FNaF Help Wanted goes back to the old use of danger, both because it only features characters from the first 5 games, but also because you literally actually die if you get too close to them. You don't want to get close to Chica or you'll die. You don't want to get close to the hallways or you'll die. Which, by the way, Foxy has the only good jump scare in this game. In Security Breach, the animatronics aren't dangerous. You are! In all seriousness, really the only thing that could be considered dangerous in this game is Monty's gator roll, which kind of looks stupid, and Freddy's jump scare after he runs out of power could be considered a PG way of depicting spring locks? I don't know. Ruin is so much better for this though, mostly just because of the jump scares. Prototype Freddy is already a really cool design, but in his jump scare he eats you. Scary shit. The Mimic already has a design, but in his jump scare he punches you in the face. Scary shit. Wait a minute.
Part 2.
Some may argue that wanting realism in a series about ghost children possessing animatronic furries is stupid, but to that I argue, fuck you. Anyway, since the start, the animatronics have never really been realistic. No company would willingly put windows into the guts of the animatronic when it would be easier and cheaper to just drape it in a fursuit. But it's not like it isn't possible, people have done it, and it's an oversight that could have easily been made for a crappy local pizza joint. What we're looking for is this. Is it physically possible, in canon, for this character to function? Would the characters be fun for kids? Would the characters be feasible for being in a crappy local pizza joint that every game up until Help Wanted had fully implied it was? And with all of that, are they still ugly enough to be creepy? FNaF 1 just objectively does this the best. They're creepy, they're ugly, but you can still believe them as kids' characters, and your mind doesn't melt if you think about the physics of them too hard. But they're boring to talk about, because everybody already has, so FNaF 2 is much more interesting. The toys suck. For one, they're made out of hard plastic, something that a crappy local pizza joint that Freddy's had been implied to be would not have the budget for. But we can look past that. Maybe it was always intended to be a megacorp. That's why Scott wrote 3 books and 3 movies about it being a local restaurant. But even going with the megacorp angle, these things have like artificial intelligence and facial recognition algorithms. In 1987? Whatever, that's a nitpick. Let's talk about character designs that are actually, fucking tolerable. What I like about the Withereds is both that they're believable as vandalized, abandoned animatronics left alone in a back room, but also that if they were fixed, they'd still look really ugly. Not too ugly, but enough that anybody over the age of 6 going to Freddy's would definitely want to stay as far away from them as possible. And even then, this face definitely made babies cry. Some people might say that Bonnie and Chica's random missing parts are unrealistic. They're just rotting in the back and being used for parts. How'd Chica lose her hands, huh? If it was vandalism, why'd they just take her hands, huh? Well, bet she'd be surprised. Buzzy is naked somewhere. I particularly like how Chica is stuck in constant scarecrow mode, presumably because of rust or her servos locking up. I don't know what that means, and I'm not entirely sure Scott knows what that means either. I also like how the Withereds aren't that ripped up. That's not really what happens when you abandon animatronics, they just get dirty and broken. Maybe a little vandalized over the years, but the main issue is usually them missing entire parts or just not functioning properly. But if there are no tears, I feel like the design wouldn't really come together as much, so the small amount of them feels like a good compromise.
Give me your flesh. Give me your flesh. Give me.
The puppet seems like it would be super unrealistic, but here's my interpretation of it. It doesn't have a skeleton, it's just a giant limp sock monkey that's being held up by wires, and in a very literal sense, it's a marionette controlled by them. The only reason it can get out of the prize corner and attack you is because Charlie is like the most powerful ghost, so it can probably fly? I don't know. Don't ask me how it gets outside of the building when it's not possessed yet, and don't ask me how its mechanics get messed up in the rain and Pizzeria Simulator. I like FNaF 3 a lot, more than most people, but its use of realism sucks so much. Let's start with the Phantoms. They're too realistic. Bear with me. The best Phantom is Balloon Boy, because his face contorts in a weird, creepy way during his jump scare, but none of the other Phantoms do this. Freddy is just green Freddy. Chica is just a watermelon. Foxy is just Foxy with black accents, and Bonnie isn't there. Where's the cool gimmicks? Why can't Freddy phase through walls? Why can't Chica make better use of the arcade screen gimmick? Give her a glitchy texture. She's the real gamer here, you poser. The third best animatronic in the game is the puppet, because it makes the Phantom thing way more interesting. It's shown fully intact until it gets in your office, which kind of hints at the greater importance to Puppet in the story. It doesn't really make sense though, because the Phantoms are just hallucinations. Why would Mike, or whoever the protagonist is, place greater importance on Charlie? But what about Springtrap? Well, he's arguably the worst character of all when it comes to this category. First of all, the Springlock hybrid suits are a very high concept thing to introduce for the oldest animatronics in the timeline, but besides that, how would this thing even work? In case you forgot, or if you just don't have brain rot like I do, the way the Springlock suits work is that they use springs to pull the endoskeleton parts to the edges of the suit for a person to fit inside, and when you want to turn it back into a robot, all the locks undo and spring the endoskeleton back into place. For some reason, a lot of people seem to think that the spring locks themselves are the things that kill you and they just stab you or something. Even the director of the FNaF movie thought that. But no, the skeleton literally springs back into its original space, slices through your skin, and effectively replaces your bones. Don't ask where the rest of Willie's body went or how it came back years later. We never actually see what the endoskeleton head looks like or if it even has one, but I cannot imagine that there's enough room inside of the smallest animatronic head in the series to push it to the edges of the suit. The torso is even worse, because how do you even... There isn't any room in here. Does it look like a rib cage like in the movie? But the worst part? The feet. Never mind the ankle guts, how would you fit a foot in there? Do you wear, like, platform heels? Do you take the feet out entirely? Is there seriously enough room in those dogs for 2 other pairs of dogs? Don't even get me started on his hands! FNAF 4s are either, in a literal sense, nightmares, or just created by sound illusion discs, so realism does not apply to this game. But I'm still gonna complain about it, because geez, Scott, you had all the opportunity in the world to make the most insane character designs ever with this idea. The fandoms are one thing, but these guys could have actually been cool. Look at Freddy. His gimmick is that he's summoned when there's too many Freddles on the bed. Why doesn't he just attack from the start? Why does he wait for the Freddles? You know what would make more sense? If he was made out of Freddles. You know the Ralph monster at the end of Ralph Sells Out? Like that, but cooler. All Bonnie had going for him is his chest being ripped open into a vest. So what if he had like a guitar smashed through his endoskeleton? His endoskeleton is also clearly supposed to resemble a spring-lock animatronic, because if you notice, not only are his fingers just made of springs, his exposed foot is also the only foot in the game that looks like this. It resembles the Springtrap foot way more than any of the others, apart from Fredbear, who is also a spring-lock animatronic. So what if you expanded on that more? Make him Shadow Bonnie, make his jump scare him crunching you. So much missed potential. What if Chica's eyes are off, so what if the cupcake stole it? Better yet, imagine this. The cupcake is her endoskeleton head. Nightmare Foxy attacks you like an angry dog, so what if he just was a dog? If you let him into your room, he'd run into your closet on all fours. Since Scott couldn't figure out how to make his tongue work, maybe make his tail his tongue? Or just give him his fucking tongue back? Nightmare is like the only good animatronic in this game because he literally doesn't make sense. His suit is transparent and his head looks like a brain. It's so cool compared to the rest, but then the rest of the games they just made him Fredbear, but black. It's not Nightmare. I like the Funtime animatronics, but they suck ass as real animatronics. Random patches of color, exposed speakers, they'd be super heavy if they're the bones of children and huge mechanical claws inside of them, which isn't great when you're renting them out to people. But Laura is literally shirtless and is only covered by what I assume to be the metal equivalent of a strip of cloth. And how does she, like, move? Is she a top? Does she come with rails? Scott says she's supposed to move around like a spider, but, like, why didn't you show that? Circus Babby has pins in her arms. Funtime Freddy's voice is terrifying. Funtime Foxy is just scary. Funtime Foxy would kill you. I mean, they all would, but especially Foxy. FNAF 6 has a lot. Bone ears, bone lips, bone lungs, bones in general. Literally made of muscle fibers, a completely different Spring Bonnie suit that we still have no idea where it came from. Bolton Freddy has just entered, so does that mean that after Baby separates from them, they just scoot back to Circus Babies to get the Freddy head back? Circus Baby, for one, is in a different suit, common theme for this game, but also, where did she get that claw? Also, Hurricane, Utah, the location I presume the game to take place in, because there is literally nowhere else it could have taken place, is in canon a small town, a really small town. The first book spends a lot of time explaining how small this town is, and nobody notices a roller skating clown, a zombie, a sock monkey, and then that sock monkey getting bored by a bootleg Freddy Fazbear, and then another Freddy Fazbear that's made of spaghetti. Presumably wandering around for like years and years too, because this game takes place well after FNAF 3, which is set, like, this year. Security Breach takes place in the future, so basically all of my complaints or compliments in this category wouldn't make sense, but I will say, why did they put the scariest animatronic in the daycare? Why did they give him anxiety? Why would they allow a giant robot to be jumping around suspended from the ceiling above a bunch of toddlers? How does Sun turn blue and grow a nightcap when the lights go out? Is he 2 animatronics? Is there a mechanism inside his head that dispenses the hat up there? Sorry about that, I just despise Tumblr Sexy Man industry plants is all. I see fan animatronics try to fix the original designs by making them look more like real-life animatronics or by adding extra details to them like clothes, and I get it, but I feel like it kind of ruins the charm of the original characters. They were well-designed characters, they didn't need to be fixed, but I guess for some people the fact that they're naked is just too much of a turn-off. But I guess for some people the fact that they don't look like real-life animatronics is too hard to ignore. I'm talking about juniors, by the way. I'm sure the game is fine, but the characters feel like they stand out even less from each other than the originals, and I feel like they're just kinda boring looking. FNAF Plus tried to fix the original designs, and FizNom did this by overcomplicating the original designs with hair, clothes, but it just makes them look ugly, not in a charming way, in a scrap trap way. I don't get it, everyone. The originals were good. Stop trying to redesign them. They were fine. So, what did we learn? You can design a great animatronic outside the context of a story or abiding by realism, but only when working within the limitations of your own setting does the design truly become really, really good. Speaking of the setting...
Part 3. The final chapter. The render.
You could argue that a render isn't technically part of an animatronic's design, but in my opinion, the way a game is lit and the way the animatronics are posed can really make or break a design. FNAF 1 almost perfected the art of the FNAF render. The office is creepy, the cameras are eerily empty, the animatronics are posed in a way that makes the light sort of emote their faces for them. Freddy hides in the background, so you have to spend longer on the cameras to find him, and the only time he's actively visible is on his final movement, and by that point it's too late. Not really, but it sounded cool, right? The only real issue here is when you see the animatronics in your windows. They're garishly bright, their faces are awkward and stupid looking, they don't move at all, they're clearly just JPEGs. The cylinder effect on the optics makes them look all stupid. But there's probably some kind of trick to make the animatronics look less cylindery. The trick is turning off the cylinder effect. FNAF 2 had all the opportunity in the world to improve on these mild shortcomings, and the cameras it certainly did. The way that you have to use your flashlight for visibility on the cameras is a really cool idea. Kinda makes each camera its own little jump scare, and seeing them brightly illuminated but still covered in static and shadow feels really found footagey, which is really cool. The animatronics in the hall look really cool, at least for the first night until you get super familiar with every aspect of the sprite until it doesn't feel even real anymore. One problem though, the office is really bright and it's really big. There's not really any kind of danger at hand here. The whole gimmick of FNAF 2 is that they add 3 entrances and take away all the doors, but it doesn't feel more dangerous because the guard room is so bright. Now, what does this have to do with the animatronics themselves? Well, for one, it messes with Principle 2 by having this huge average human mother-sized animatronics fitting through tiny air vents. For 2, they decided to put huge bright-ass lights in a game where the main mechanic is the animatronics entering your room and staring at you. But it's not scary because they just stand there completely motionless. Not scary motionless, mind you, lazy motionless. They're in full visibility. The fact that they're extremely saturated looking it doesn't work. Another annoyance, the Freddy mask, one of the most iconic parts of the whole series, is dumb because it's transparent. The whole point of FNAF isn't the fear of the jump scare itself, it's the fear that you're about to get jump scared. Every time you pull open the monitor, there's a chance that one of the animatronics will slip through your defenses and get you as soon as you put it back down. But most importantly, when you pull down the monitor, the jump scare GIF that plays has the animatronic inside of the office. They're being affected by the same light source as the office is affected by you being shaken around by the animatronic. In FNAF 2, along with you being able to be jump scared after putting the monitor down, you can be jump scared when you put away the mask. The mask, having eye holes, means that if you use the same jump scare technique as FNAF 1, your vision would suddenly jolt away and an animatronic would teleport in front of you. It would be super jarring. So Scott's solution to this was to make every jump scare a bright, oversaturated GIF that overlays on top of the office. So to compensate for the fact that they would just appear from nowhere, all of the animatronics either pop out from the side of the screen or jump out from in front of you, which is not only just super dumb looking, but it makes the jump scares just not good. Imagine the animatronics trying to set up for this jump scare. Withered Chica would have to get under your desk. Freddy would have to hide behind you. Withered Bonnie would have to learn to teleport, I guess. FNAF 2 has some shitty renders, but hey, at least FNAF 3s are gonna be better, right? There's only one animatronic that Scott has to work with, so maybe he'll have more time to make the renders look better. Right? Yes, I really like FNAF 3's color palette. I see a lot of people who complain about it looking ugly and gross. Ew, guys, have you seen the Nightmare Hospital in Silent Hill? It's so ugly, I hate this game. I really like how the game expands on the alarm-like sound cues that would play when an animatronic was in the hall in FNAF 2, and turns it into an actual alarm that even flashes the office red when the ventilation system shuts off. Makes it like a mad dash to try to reboot your systems when they keep failing on you. The game's renders kind of make it look like an obtuse old 2000s pre-rendered PC game, which I guess makes sense because Scott was literally making those. You never really get a good view of Springtrap. A lot of times he's just out of frame or hidden in really heavy shadows, so the best view you get of him is when he's in the vents, so about to kill you, or already killing you. I would have preferred if he was animated in the doorway, but it's fine, because the rest of the sprites are so damn good. He's even better in FNaF VR, although this isn't a render, watching him actually move around is really scary, him silently swaying or crawling through the vents. When he's about to go through the one that's right next to you, there's nothing he can do anymore but watch as he approaches. A lot of people really hate his jump scare, and don't worry, I used to be part of the hive mind too. It's really not that bad. It does its job as a jump scare fine. It jumps up when you aren't expecting it and scares you, hopefully. It's not like it would really make a difference if he was just bobbing up and down or something. Really, anything FNaF 3 did wouldn't really work as a jump scare, because it's already such a hectic game. If he suddenly got interrupted from being jump scared 3 times by the phantoms, with loud alarms blaring in your ears and the reboot noise, with another full-sized, full loudness jump scare, it wouldn't work any better. Plus, this guy is a serial killer. If he did the Freddy, it would just look stupid. Oh, hey, look at that. FNaF 4's renders are great, even though I've made it clear that I don't really like the designs. In the game, they're really great and do an excellent job being scary. The bedroom has the same 2000s PC filth vibe that FNaF 3 had, but with a cooler palette. The way the animatronics duck back into the doorway, the way you get a mini jump scare every time you check on Foxy in his final stage, the Freddles twitching, and the jump scares are finally back in the FNaF 1 style. My only real issue is that the cupcake attacks you in this game, which is both dumb here and inadvertently led to the cupcake ruining most of the scenes in the movie, and also the shading in the bedroom jump scares kind of makes it look like the animatronics are like sumo squatting on stick legs, which isn't great for designs that are already horribly proportioned. I really like the renders in Sister Location. It's the first game in what I've described as the sci-fi or modern era, and the renders really show that, with the super plasticky, metally designs illuminated by a bright flashlight. The game uses a lot of cool colors like blues and purples, except for the main room, weirdly, which uses colors kind of like the FNaF 3 palette. I like when Foxy pops up in the dark and jitters around as the light dissipates, especially in VR. I like when Bellora's past you when you're in the dark. Where they really all shine, though, is in the private room cameras, where the material on their shells being illuminated gives it like a weirdly cel-shaded looking effect. FNaF 6, on the other hand, the Pizza Sim part of the game has a really cheap bootleg PC game look to it, which in any other context would be a really cool stylistic decision, but knowing Scott Cawthon, it's just because he hasn't gotten any better at utilizing pre-renders since the 2000s. Ignoring that though, these sections are pretty charming, if a little cheap looking. The night sections are definitely the worst part of the game though. They're really fun and scary, but they'd be even more fun and scary if they showed the damn robots. There's no cameras in this game, even if they look boring just being vent cams. The game tells you that shining your light into the vents at your side scares the animatronics away, but it's impossible to tell if they're there or not because it's stupidly hard to track them. There's no visual or audio cue to show that you've scared them away, which also comes with the downsides of having barely any time to get to see the most important characters of the franchise and the most important game in the series. We didn't even know if these guys were gonna come back until Security Breach brought the bed for no fucking reason. Hey Scott, check this out. Cool, right? It's by a fan, literally Miguel, and it's literally 10 frames. At least the jump scares are cool, right? No, just a sliding 3-frame animation that appears out of thin air and then holds on the last frame for 5 seconds before fading to black and playing nonsense dialogue. The salvage sections are incredible, though. They utilize the lighting in a really cool way. You have to really thoroughly examine the animatronics to try to spot any movement with them, which kind of gives Freddy from FNaF 1 vibes, where he had to like really examine the cameras to try to find his eyes in the background. The jump scares are pretty creative, too. Notice that I said creative and not good. FNaF VR isn't pre-rendered, so I don't have to talk about it, but I will talk about Security Breach, because as basically the reboot of the franchise, it's going to set the tone for every game coming after this.
Crappy Mr. Hippo Fridge Magnet? Lame.
We all know that it's glitchy, the textures are all broken, it's all blurry, it just doesn't work. It's just really hard to be scared of animatronics when we're in a situation where all the textures are missing, and the animatronics are constantly clipping into walls.
Oh, what?
See, that's the one upside of having all of the backgrounds be pre-rendered. The animatronics couldn't get stuck on stuff. Sammy Squirrel from FNaF 7 is actually a really good example of how you can make a character still look creepy without harsh lighting or even very interesting posing. And the song that plays when he's about to enter your office is probably some of Mark Waters' best work.
Part 4. Ты финал чиптер. Эмоцион О. Лач Периов.
This is probably the most important principle of all, because it is literally the reason the franchise exists. FNaF 1 is really good at making the animatronics look soulless, but I don't think it necessarily does it the best. I already mentioned this in the render section, but I really like that instead of relying on moving each part of the face individually to show emotion, Scott hides certain portions of the face under shadow or hidden by the camera angle to give it more artificial emotion. Most importantly though, the only parts of the face that move are the top eyelid, the eyes, and the mouth. More on that later. FNaF 2 is kind of 50-50. The withered animatronics are probably the best in the series when it comes to a lack of emotion. Bonnie literally lacks a face to emote with, and withered Freddy is just kind of perfecting what FNaF 1 started. Or I guess it would if the pre-renders were fucking good. This is one of the most iconic images in the franchise. It was literally on every piece of merch for a while, and it's... But the game over screen is so fucking stupid looking. His eyebrows are kind of apart from his actual eyes, so he looks weirdly smug, and there's no perspective, so Freddy's face kind of mixes with your muzzle, making him kind of look like a TikTok boy biting his lip. There's just too much emotion here. He looks like an actual cartoon bear who maliciously decided to kill you instead of a ghost inside of a robot who looks like a bear who just killed you as routine. Because yes, routine, that was what was scary about the animatronics until like FNaF 2 when we figured out the minigames. We didn't know that they were possessed yet. Scott probably didn't know that they were possessed yet. They were just malfunctioning robots. That's the scary part. These kids are just trapped for eternity inside of these robots that can't show any kind of emotion, and they're just forced to kill people daily and entertain other kids. Chica is the best one, and that mostly comes down to her eyebrows and eyelids being stolen, so there's no chance of her accidentally looking too malicious or too cute. What I really like, though, is that unlike any of the others, really in the whole series, there aren't any frames where Chica is trying to look scary. You'll notice that in the first game, most of the animatronics are always staring at the cameras, looking at you at weird angles to make themselves more intimidating. But Chica just stands there, staring into space. Even in the most intimidating angle, Chica is not really doing anything. Original Chica did this in the first game too. You'll notice that a lot of times, even when Chica's staring at the camera, it kind of looks like she's not really staring at you, she's kind of staring through you. And a lot of other times, she's just kind of like looking at walls, or just sitting around slack-jawed. And I'm glad that that's like the one aspect of Chica's character that's been pretty consistent throughout the whole franchise. I really like how Security Breach did it too, like literally destroying her, and then she comes back and her eyes are all wobbly and her mouth is destroyed and she doesn't talk anymore. I like Chica. Sue me. I see a lot of people try to make redesigns of Springtrap and try to fix his corpse by making it look like a real mummy, but I don't know, I've always really liked his original. The fact that his face has been permanently trapped in this expression, he's basically become a robot himself. The only way that he's even able to be recognized as human anymore is through the suit. Just look at his jump scare. Maybe that's why he became so reliant on it. He could have been finally freed from it after the fire, but in a twisted sort of irony, the thing that killed him is the only thing that's keeping him alive. The Fun Times are probably one of the best examples of this principle, and not only are there extended sections where they're deactivated, like when you're performing maintenance on them, they're also the animatronics that show you their skeletons the most, which I feel like is an effective way of taking humanity away from them. I like how Ballora lacks any kind of facial movement on her shells, so you only see her teeth moving through the mouth hole. She only gets to fully control her face when her face is off. Her eyes open, her mouth is exposed. It's a really cool way of kind of forcing emotion to her character, while still kind of keeping the horror aspect. The fact that characters are trapped in decaying robots is utilized probably best in FNAF 6. All the characters in this game have speaking lines now, but it's been more than 40 years at this point. They're all decaying and rotting. There's even less humanity in these designs than before because they're so destroyed that they're barely even legible. The only non-destroyed character is Lefty, but Lefty's whole point is that the puppet is trapped inside, and you never see the puppet in this game. There's even an argument to be made about the puppet not even being the one talking here. They're kind of struggling to remain human. Baby is trying to smile through the decaying body. Scrap Trap can't even keep his eyes open. Molten Freddy is literally fighting itself over who gets to control the body out of like 4 animatronics that are all possessed by like 50 kids each. And it all culminates in them burning to death, finally releasing their souls into a peaceful afterlife until Steelwool decided to bring them back for no reason. A lot of people really hate the Glamrocks for being too human, and I understand that. They talk, they have imposter syndrome, they have eating disorders, they have anger issues. But as far as we're aware, as far as would make sense in the lore, they aren't possessed. They're just super good AI that Fazbear Entertainment decided to code with, like, mental illnesses. That's fucked up. I like how in Monty and Chica's case, after Gregory destroys them, they become completely unintelligible. Chica still gets to talk, sort of, but Monty literally only screams in pain after he's destroyed, which is an interesting take on this principle, I guess. They're basically humans until some 8-year-old comes around and destroys them. That just kind of makes it sad, though. There's also, like, a murder mystery and, like, family drama kind of thing, where Monty is, like, a jealous, greedy, angry man who kills Bonnie out of frustration and takes his place. Only a couple games ago, we were doing murder mysteries with, like, humans. I like Chica's lazy wobbling eye, though, and a lack of a mouth, and the way that in Ruin she's literally, like, covered in rotten cheese and just doesn't seem to notice. Monty crawls around like a zombie. They're all basically zombies at this point. Honestly, I don't mind the Glamrocks having personalities, but I hope in the future they either give them ghosts to be possessed by, or just drop the personality thing for the characters going forward. I feel like the daycare attendant is, like, the worst version of this. He has, like, DID, but, like, the fictional version of DID, where one half is, like, a ooh anxiety Tumblr sexy boy, and the other side is, like, a psycho evil murderer who calls you a naughty boy. Like, this is literally the worst way you could have gone about this. The whole point is that the robots are soulless, and you gave him 2 souls. Well, that's too many. I hate the FNAF movie. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. It uses the same designs as the first game, so how could it be bad? It's bad because it completely misunderstands what made the designs good in the first place. First of all, bottom eyelids. That means you can make them look cute or happy. That's not something you want to do with them, even when they're in the context of performing. The whole point of animatronics being scary is that they're already scary when you're seeing them up on stage. They're surreal and, like, poorly animated and stuff. Nobody is going into the back unless you're actually intending to, but when you do, that's when they're scarier, not when they turn scary. You can also make them squint, which just makes them look malicious, which, again, is not what makes them scary. What makes them scary is that they're malfunctioning robots that you don't necessarily know what they're gonna do to you. Making them actively evil forces kind of defeats the point, just like how making them act like children defeats the point. Before you say that it's because they're being controlled by Afton, yeah, I know. And that's dumb too. They have rotating eyebrows so they can make themselves look cuter or more evil, which is dumb and bad. There's a whole sequence where they make friends with the main characters and make a fort with them while jolly music plays, which just further humanizes the designs that were literally created because of criticism of how non-human Scott's designs looked. And before you say, oh, they're just kids, even ignoring the whole tangent I went on a couple minutes ago, did you forget the word of our Lord?
The others are like animals.
I don't understand how people like this movie. It's fun, I guess. I like seeing, like, fucking William Afton on the big screen. I like seeing the, like, Foxy saying dum 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 dum. But, like, are you fucking kidding me? This was the one chance we had to, like, make this series look not, like, stupid in front of a whole audience of actual horror fans. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Five Nights at Freddy's the movie gets 1 star out of, a million.
All in all, have the designs in the series really gone downhill? No. The security breach characters aren't perfect, but honestly, they've never been perfect. Look at Scrap Trap. There's room for improvement, but I think most of the problems people have with the designs not being scary anymore is because of the games themselves just aren't scary. Security Breach is an unfinished, unfun mess of a game. There's missing textures, it's too bright, it's hard to be scared of designs that are placed in a setting that's literally falling apart at the seams. Imagine if Security Breach was the game to introduce the FNaF 2 animatronics, and FNaF 2 introduced the Security Breach animatronics. People would hate these fuckers, but it didn't, so they don't. It also might just be because the design philosophy is pretty different. You can kind of see that in how I didn't have much to say about Security Breach for most of the principles, and that makes sense. It's a reboot. Things will be different, for better or for worse, but I feel like it's very much just an issue of gatekeeping. There are old fans who think they're better than everyone because they watched Markiplier 10 years ago. There are new fans starting to get into the series. There are fans who are only now at the age where they can start engaging with the series through art and content creation and stuff, and some of those fans like the new game, and some of those fans want to try to impress the old fans by being assholes to people about character design. People are definitely just gonna take what I'm saying as me not being harsh enough on Steel Wool, or being complacent in the destruction of the franchise. I did it before with Minecraft. Who's to say I'm not gonna do it with Five Nights at fucking Freddy's? What? What the hell? I don't have a phone.
Hello, my name is Crinkle McStinkle, and I'm here today to share my unwanted opinion about FNaF. As said, the games have lost a lot of their scare factor over time, but I would like to introduce Lefty. Lefty is from Pizza Sim. His name is actually an acronym for Lure, Encapsulate, Fuse, Transport, and Extract. He's named this because he is a capture device for the puppet, which I find interesting. But I love Lefty for even more reasons. His design brings back the terror of the old animatronics with their grounding in reality, and he feels like the perfect mix of Golden Freddy and normal Freddy. After I got jump scared by him not realizing he was a jump scare animatronic, was one of the coolest experiences I've had in FNaF. My only gripe is his appearances. He debuted in Pizza Sim, but has only ever appeared additionally in Ultimate Custom Night, where he wasn't even really a threat. It's so disappointing Scott made such a cool looking and unique animatronic, only to never see him again. But through all of that, I still love Lefty.
Thanks for your insight, Winkle Wink Winkle. Anyway. Oh my god. Who put a phone in my sister location? Hello?
Hey y'all, Skip here. I wanted to talk about 2 things Miles of Kilometers forgot to mention. So Plushtrap is a kind of a weird little gremlin fellow. According to the brain-rotting book lore, he was just one of a series of toys, which was based off of Springtrap? Why? Anyways, weird merch decisions aside, Plushtrap's segment is really scary to me. It's got realism, kind of like seeing something move out of the corner of your eye, but when you turn on the lights it was nothing. Can you be sure it was nothing though? Stupid amount of teeth. Looks like a wire hairbrush, but I can see that being pretty dangerous if 2 of them clamp down on your hand. In conclusion, I want to punt Springtrap through a plate glass window. I've been Skip Grovers, coming to you from the hallway outside your bedroom. See ya!
Thanks, Skip. Anyway, has Five Nights at Freddy's gotten lazy? No. Some people may argue it's gotten worse. I'd argue that even, but pretending that the new designs have no merit whatsoever, that just isn't gonna get us anywhere. The movie designs are objectively bad, though. What's the moral here? Don't be a gatekeeper, don't be an asshole, criticize when it's deserved, not when it's petty, like and respect classic Freddy, like and respect modern Freddy. Hell Haunted 2 will probably be out by the time I'm done with this video, and in fact, by the time I'm recording this video, it is out. So, let's just hope it'll be as good as I hope it'll be. I don't know. With that, I'm out. But just know...
I always come back.